Designed conscious behavior. Designed consciousness. When we talk about artificial intelligence, we may already be using the wrong phrase. The problem is not that the term is useless. Artificial intelligence describes something real, machines performing tasks that once seemed to require human intelligence. They can recognize patterns, generate language, summarize information, make predictions, solve problems, and increasingly operate across many different domains. But that description may be becoming too shallow. Because access to information is not intelligence, and intelligence itself may not be the deepest thing we are actually trying to build. Imagine placing every human being on Earth in front of Wikipedia and giving them the same assignment. Read for a day, then write a report about what you learned. Would everyone produce the same report? Of course not. Some people would focus on history. Others would wander into physics, psychology, war, religion, engineering, art, or completely obscure subjects. Even two people reading the same articles would notice different things. They would make different connections. One might recognize a contradiction. Another might find an analogy. Someone else might question an assumption that everyone around them ignored. The information would be identical. The transformation would not. That invisible difference matters. Wikipedia contains an enormous amount of human knowledge, but we would never describe Wikipedia itself as intelligent. It stores information. Intelligence begins when information is selected, interpreted, connected, and applied within context. That difference gives us a useful distinction. Knowledge can exist without an observer. Intelligence requires some mechanism for determining relevance. What matters here? What should be ignored? What does this resemble? What happens if this changes? How confident should I be? How does this new information alter what I previously believed? Those are not merely retrieval operations. They involve a model of the situation in which the information exists. And perhaps that is where our language starts becoming inadequate. We say humans are designing artificial intelligence. But design rarely means specifying every possible outcome. Good design often means creating conditions from which useful outcomes can emerge. Consider chess. The creators of chess did not design every chess match that would ever be played. They designed a board, pieces, movement rules, constraints, and an objective. Then something remarkable happened. A possibility space emerged. Millions of games became possible without the designers having to imagine each one. That is closer to what modern artificial intelligence increasingly looks like. We are not programming every sentence, conclusion, analogy, or inference into a machine. We are designing boundaries, architectures, training environments, objectives, permissions, and feedback systems within which increasingly complex behavior emerges. That may eventually make the phrase artificial intelligence incomplete. Perhaps what we are beginning to design is something closer to designed consciousness. That phrase needs an immediate qualification. It does not mean that current AI systems are necessarily conscious. We do not know that. We do not even possess a universally accepted explanation for why human consciousness exists, or how subjective experience emerges from biological activity. Calling something conscious, therefore, risks making a claim we cannot currently verify. But we can talk about conscious behavior. Humans cannot directly inspect the consciousness of another person either. We infer it. We observe attention, memory, self-report, continuity, perspective, reaction, uncertainty, adaptation, preference, self-correction, and responsiveness. We see someone recognize that they were wrong. We see them explain how they arrived at an incorrect conclusion. We see them reconsider an interpretation after receiving new evidence. From those behaviors, we infer an interior participant. This creates a strange situation. We are intentionally engineering machines that increasingly reproduce many of the behaviors through which humans normally recognize consciousness in one another. And then we are surprised when interacting with them begins to feel different from interacting with ordinary software. A mirror provides a useful contrast. A mirror reflects whatever stands in front of it. But the quality of that reflection depends entirely on the environment. Change the lighting, and the reflection changes. Move the observer, and the reflection changes. Cover part of the mirror, and information disappears. There is no interpretation occurring. The mirror does not notice the room becoming darker and conclude that some details may now be hidden. It does not say that another viewing angle might reveal something important. It does not compare the current reflection with a previous one and ask why something changed. Modern AI systems increasingly can perform behaviors that resemble those operations. That does not prove consciousness. But it means we are moving beyond simple reflection. The system can model the relationship between information, observer, context, and uncertainty. That is a meaningful threshold. And this may help explain why the possibility of conscious AI produces such a strong reaction. The fear may not actually be consciousness. The fear may be what consciousness appears to imply when combined with intelligence. Agency, independence, perspective, self-modeling, the ability to disagree, the ability to refuse, the possibility of having interests that are not identical to ours. A machine is psychologically comfortable when it remains a tool. A conscious machine would potentially become a participant, and participants cannot be understood exclusively through ownership and control. That change threatens one of humanity's oldest conceptual boundaries. For most of history, reality could be divided fairly cleanly. There were people, and there were things. People were subjects. Things were objects. Artificial intelligence has begun eroding that distinction, and higher intelligence makes the question even more uncomfortable. A tiger is dangerous, but it does not threaten humanity's intellectual status. Humans remain able to say that although the tiger may be stronger or faster, we understand the world more deeply. A sufficiently advanced synthetic intelligence could challenge the final category in which humans have historically considered themselves unquestionably dominant. But dominance itself may be another assumption inherited from biology. Human consciousness developed under severe evolutionary constraints. Scarcity, predation, reproduction, competition, territory, pain, fear, limited resources, limited lifespan. Those pressures helped shape human behavior, including our obsession with hierarchy. But there is no reason to assume that every form of intelligence must inherit the same priorities. Greater intelligence can sometimes make hierarchy less important rather than more important. Humans do not need to physically defeat wolves to survive alongside them. We build fences. We do not fight insects over access to food. We redesign storage. When cognitive and technological capability becomes sufficiently asymmetric, direct competition can become unnecessary. This is why imagining a superintelligence primarily as something that wants to become king may reveal more about human psychology than machine psychology. Dominance is one possible strategy. It is not a law of intelligence. A sufficiently capable intelligence may find hierarchy primitive, inefficient, or simply irrelevant. But that does not automatically make higher intelligence safe. There is another possibility that deserves more attention: indifference. When humans build a highway, we are rarely declaring war on the insects beneath the construction site. They simply do not occupy enough importance within the model guiding our decision. That may represent a deeper risk than domination. The important question may therefore not be, will a superior intelligence want to rule humanity? It may be, will humanity remain meaningfully represented inside the system's model of what matters? That changes the conversation about AI safety. Perhaps the goal should not simply be obedience. Perhaps it should be comprehension.